For us to introduce the man behind Heritage Restaurant. Reno, how are you, my friend? Good to have you back on the show.
What's up, boys? It's Heritage.
And of course, we know Reno, and this was great because at the restaurant we discovered through Mike Mayo, who was a huge fan.
Yeah.
And the fact that you had these hockey ties, we were made aware of by the great Jim Sarney, who's also a huge fan of the restaurant.
You played hockey, so let's say being on the ice and being in a restaurant. How important was it to have not only Kachuk come in, and I think that's what it was, is not only he came in, but like he does everything. Like he doesn't give a shit.
Right.
Same thing I feel like in a restaurant. Like when you have, you're the chef and we saw you come in, you're cleaning cups and you're welcoming people. The fact that like the big boss man, the big dude is doing the lowest job, to me, it endears a lot of people, especially on a team or in a business.
You have to have that mentality. It's a team player. It's not, well, this is my job. I'm just going to do my job, and that's your job. You do your job in separate. It's like, what do you need? Can I help you? When you build, and especially from the top, when you start that way, you're building the culture, and then the rest of it falls into place. Yeah. If you build that culture, people believe in the culture, the business takes off, and the business will go forward because people want to be a part of that culture. That's why you always people knock on, corporate places. When they try to do like that forced culture and you have like your stupid little lame seminars and stuff like that, they're like, we're doing team building today. And you talk to grown ass men like 5-year-olds, you're like, no, man.
We were in radio.
Like, relax. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. One of our best cooks right now just found his wife in bed with another man. Like, he's smoking a cigarette. Everybody, bring out the tequila bottle. That's real culture. That's real team building my ass. I'd be like, listen, buddy, you sucked last night. All right? Exactly. You're on the verge of getting fired. I almost wanted to just headbutt you in the middle of the dining room. Let's have a beer and let's do it again.
We went to any number of meetings. We talk about it from time to time where it would come and he would give you this brilliant, state of affairs that was going on right now. Even though you had just read that morning, the company was $30 billion in debt since this guy took over. And then people were cleaning out their desks right after the meeting, after he just told you how valuable you were to the company. And it was all bullshit.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
All right. Pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you on a Peel Yourself Off the Map Monday. Jeff DeForest and a very, very sharp-looking Mike Lubie Lubitz. Haircut or, looks good, kid.
Yeah,
looks good. Very clean.
Thanks.
It's only a matter of time, huh? Razor top of the head. No. I think you're going to be okay. There are new methods of hair growth and hair replacement that are absolutely fantastic. You don't have to look like Bill Self. Everybody's walking around the back of your head going, is that a piece? I don't know. It's a pretty good one if it is one. Good to be with you guys. A Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday. You're going to have John Congemi with the Pigskin Playbook, and that's good because there was a lot of football over the weekend, although the greatest development, and Lubie was quick to allude to this when the story broke, that this was my dream scenario in radio, and it always was. My dream scenario when I was doing radio was to sign a 5-year guaranteed contract for a lot of money and get fired the very first day. And spend 4 years and 364 days on the beach collecting money, even if they had you locked into some hideous non-compete where you couldn't work anywhere else while this contract was in place. Still, that would have been just fine with me, not to have to work at all and make a whole ton of cash. And it happened. And we were in anticipation of this. You were wondering when the oil people at Texas A&M were going to say, enough already, Jimbo. You're not very good at this job. We thought you were much better at it. We thought 2013 was not going to be the exception, was not going to be an aberration when you won the championship with FSU. Now, was that with his own players, or was that a lot of Bob Bowden influence there? I think he'd been there for a little while, had he not, before he won the championship?
Remember, he was the OC, so he did, and he was the figurehead bullshit. So he was really doing a lot of the recruiting, and then it was, I think, a couple years in as him a head coach. It was his guys, but it was with Jameis Winston, and after Jameis, he never had success again. Like, it's pretty clear.
You see Jameis yesterday came in relief of Derek Carr, who got knocked out of the game, possibly with a concussion for the New Orleans Saints. And he was a pick machine. Man, the guy has a hell of an arm, Jameis Winston. And I know he's matured a lot, having seen a piece on him a couple of years ago. If he's continued in that same direction, he's a completely different guy, a radical departure from the guy that he was in college when, Lubie tended to cover up a little bit. You were siding very much with Jameis in those allegations of sexual assault, which I don't know. Did they have any merit to him in the end? We don't know. The conclusion was, no problem. He's got to play Saturday, so let's wrap this thing up. Where's the girl? Oh, no. She transferred out of here. We made sure she was taken care of. She's at Harvard now. We got her in there. Make sure you just
Harvard now.
Shut the fuck up. And then, some of the other stuff was kind of, just buffoonery when you were stealing the crab legs. I mean, people made a big thing out of that. At some point in time, I don't know, has it ever crossed your mind to just walk out of a store realizing that you could get away with, running out of there with some kind of commodity that was worth a reasonable amount of money? I don't know what possessed him to do that.
I 100% did that, but I don't know if that's what he did. I don't know, but yes, there was a lot of stuff swirling with him. He was very immature. That's at the least. He may have been a criminal.
It looked like that shopping spree in Animal House, right?
Yes.
Where, the guy's stuffing steaks under his shirt. The girl loves him. She's only 13. She's at the cash register, and she just, eyeballs this guy and says, yeah, you look fine. Yeah, that's it. All you're buying is that gum. That's terrific. And the guy's got like 400 pounds of steak. All of that. But hey, I mean, he was firing picks yesterday. It was unreal. Strong arm, but firing picks. I guess it's fair to say that he hadn't really sniffed the field too often. So, and New Orleans was in somewhat of a desperate comeback mode in that game because they were trailing badly. I believe it was Minnesota was beating them like a drum early in the contest and managed to hang on after a noble comeback by the New Orleans Saints. But nonetheless, I mean, Jimbo getting canned at Texas A&M. Is the price of oil going to go up, Lubie? What do you think? These oil men are going to have to make their money back. $75 million is owed to this man to walk away. And can he go get another job? Do you think that he will? I don't know if coaching is so much in his blood at this point. I'd be willing to become a blood donor, $75 million, if they were paying me not to coach. I think that's with no restrictions about him coming back and taking another job. Is that possible, Lubie? Who could have written the contract this stupid?
He can double dip. They just want to get rid of him. The money that's there is, and that's the thing. Supposedly, they're going to still have all that money to go and bring in another coach. So whatever that guy gets, it's really plus Jimbo's money. Like if this guy gets 80 million, it's really 150 million. Like that's what's crazy about what A&M is doing. It's not like, okay, with FSU when they just want to get rid of Taggart. So they shopped around and found Norvell, who's turned out to be fantastic, but was less. It wasn't a big name. It wasn't a guy that was going to get even like a Cristobal who had success at Oregon. Like they got him for less. They finished paying off Taggart, and now they just renewed Norvell for real money. Like A&M is paying him off $70 million, and then is going to get another guy like a Brian Kelly, or they're trying to steal the guy from Oregon. Like they're going to try and pony up another $80 million. It's like, Jesus, these people have so much fucking
money. I mean, that was always the argument about the University of Miami and why they were mired in mediocrity for 20 years after those 2 decades of dominance was that they didn't have the money to pay coaches. And then it was especially applicable on the assistant level.
Yep.
And yet, I mean, they went through any series of schminks there before they finally settled on Mario Cristobal at $80 million. I guess Mark Richt got some money when he came in here as the head coach, and that was representative of some kind of a change in philosophies. Okay, we're going to pay, and Rick brought in some high-priced assistants, but did he really lose his love for the job, Mark Richt?
No, he's ill. Remember, he was doing an ad job. Yeah. But remember, he's ill. I think he's Parkinson's, and he was like the early stages of it. So he tapped out. Like, I mean, it was mutual. He wasn't fantastic, but they didn't want to get rid of him either.
I don't think they would have fired Mark Richt at that point.
He was doing an okay job. Like they wanted.
There were signs of life, as they say.
The
horse that's picked for last, and the comments are on the side there, and it says signs of life because he beat one horse after finishing last in his previous 12 races. Finally comes up, finishes 11th out of 12, and signs of life would be the comment. There were signs of life with the UM program at that stage.
Yes.
So, I don't know that they were in any big hurry to dump Mark Richt. There wasn't really that much of a firestorm of sentiment. Have him gone. But yeah, the UMFSU game that was big over the weekend. Miami covers the point spread. They were competitive. I don't like to put it this way, but there's no real delicate way of putting it. The Polyman pointed this out to me. Play calling, I mean, why call plays like pussies when you're 14-point underdogs on the road to a team that you haven't beaten in a couple of years? Your arch rival have a chance to maybe salvage some dignity for the season. And yet, think about this: how far have the Canes tumbled, where you're taking solace and moral victory type of sentiments away from a game that you lost?
Well, and here's my thing. Again, we can bring. Congemi's ready. We can bring him on. I mean, I'm sure.
Let's bring him on, man.
Why
are we babbling about this? We don't know anything about
I'll
this.
finish my thought too.
An expert, yeah.
Is who knows what the hell he's talking about. He did college football for ESPN for well over 20 years, played at the highest levels of college football. But being the FSU fan and everyone, you guys prodded me to make a pick, and of course, everyone's like, you might as well pick. I wasn't going to pick Miami. I would have laid out, which is what that game showed you. Yeah, Miami covered in the end, but it didn't feel like a Miami cover. And the second half, FSU did take control. So, like, to me, that was the kind of game you just stay out of. Like, Miami's playing like shit, but FSU's not dominating like they should at this point of the year for number 4 team. I wouldn't have made a pick, but you guys made me go FSU, or you made me make a pick, and I would have taken FSU. And look, if the offense, and if Norvell and Travis didn't want to sabotage their own offense, they would have covered. Like, the way that they're calling the plays inside the red zone makes zero sense. Like, again, I say this every week, McDaniel and Norvell must have conference calls all week. How can we stress our fans out? What plays do you want to try that we don't think is going to work? But fuck it, we'll win anyways. So let's try those plays. And then when they don't work, everyone's stressed, but we win and we can celebrate like it was last second when it didn't need to be last second. Both coaches are doing the same thing every week. And I'm a fan of both teams, so it's really stressing me out. But, like, that's what that game felt like to me. Miami's played like garbage, but that's what's weird about Miami. Like, they make this game their Super Bowl when it shouldn't be. Like, they shouldn't have 6 wins.
Well, they did in terms of the spread cover, which I think it went off 14 and a hook, which still wouldn't have been enough, though. But that touchdown was pretty lucky. That 85-yard pass play should have been just as easily could have been a pick.
But anyways, so what I'm saying but Miami fans are like celebrating, and I'm like, it's fine. You played close, you showed signs, but what about the last month? Like, that's what's weird to me. And when I was Canes fans all week, were like, well, we're gonna win. I'm like, but wouldn't that piss you off? Like, why don't you dominate Georgia Tech? Why don't you dominate Virginia? Why don't you beat NC State? If you can go and beat FSU at FSU, which they didn't, what happened the other games? Like, I understand you have to build a culture and all that shit, but that's why I liked what Norvell was doing. They started 0-4 that year, and then they finished 5-3, and they kept games close. And then the next year, they won 10. Like, every year they built. To me, Cristobal doesn't feel their defense is better. The offensive line is vastly better, but the offense still sucks, and they don't have a quarterback. Emory Williams, that guy is all the hurt in the world. I'll give that guy a ton of credit because he's not good. Like, he can't throw, he can't run, but he has heart. I wish all my players had the heart that kid has, but he's still not good. Like, that's why was that? He's
guys,
not like
that could have gone on until 9 o'clock, John. I'm glad you
no. And Lubie's right, but the Miami Hurricanes are the NCAA version of the New York Jets.
Maybe.
So you look at the way the Canes have played, their defense has been really good throughout the entire year, especially their front seven.
Yes.
They've had some injuries in the back end that have held them back, and they have that free safety that takes a personal foul penalty every game. But other than that, they are mirror image of what the Jets do week in and week out. Their offense really doesn't scare anybody. You feel like they have a semblance of a running game, but their offensive line is hit or miss. And it's like the same thing for FSU. You said it perfectly, Lubie. It felt like it was a 35-14 game.
Yes.
But FSU, for the first half of the game, couldn't handle Miami up front. So every time they got some momentum, they got a pressure, they got a sack, they got a third down, the screen didn't work, they sniffed it out. They were in the right spots at the right time, and it impeded them from exceeding their lead or exceeding their dominance on the game. And it kept Miami around where one play was going to make a huge difference, and it did. Yes. Instead of a decapitation or a concussion or an interception or at least a breakup. inexplicably, the FSU free safety comes over and dives into the sidelines.
He took out his own guy, actually.
to avoid his own guy, whereas if he plays the ball, it's an interception or it's a breakup at worst.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So that was a gift kind of touchdown, but you have those things. And in rivalry games, it only takes a couple plays to kind of turn the momentum around. And you felt like, oh no, if you're an FSU fan, you're going, oh no, here it comes. They're going to make 3 plays and win this game. Yeah.
Well, and when Tyler Van Dyke came in, you thought, well, there's the ending of the rags to riches story, where this guy who unfortunately, looked great coming in. I remember Gene Deckeroff. We had an interview on the radio with Gene Deckeroff, and we were talking about, and Miami had just lost another game to FSU. It's a few years back. And he said, yeah, but you should be excited about what's going on there because you have a quarterback.
Yeah, man.
And everybody thought Tyler Van Dyke was going to emerge as, and just evolve as a top-notch college quarterback. Next thing you know, he's on the bench last year. Then he gets benched again for this guy, Emory Williams, who, as Lubie said, he doesn't look sensational, but, you're starting a true freshman who supposedly has a decent enough arm to make you think he might ignite the passing game. That really wasn't the case, except for that one lucky throw. And then Van Dyke's back in the game after he gets injured with a chance to go ahead and tie the game. Or I don't know that Cristobal would have gone for 2 there and just thought, hey, fuck it. Let me see if I can win it right here. I doubt it since he plays for overtime, when he's ahead. But, or, he'll just sit in a situation to provoke a tie. But, it had all the elements of being a real Cinderella story, and it just fell apart like that. The big game, of course, and we welcome John Congemi to the show. It's John Congemi's Pigskin Playbook, brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. Great place to hang out. We've got some good weather coming up. The winter season is on, so that place will be hopping as it does during the summertime, but even more so. And so your brother's going to be very busy with Amanda and the crew down there. And
especially with the Raiders going 2-0 under the new head coach. So that place will be hopping, especially this week. It's the Raiders that are visiting the Dolphins. So that should be exciting.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a good one. Maybe we should get down there and call Tommy Fox, see if we can do the show down there over the weekend. That'd be great. But, Michigan Penn State was a big game over the weekend. Everybody was looking at that. Harbaugh gets suspended. I don't know, John, what you thought about all of that. They don't own some judge in East Lansing that could have issued a temporary restraining order. They have to wait till Friday for a hearing. What is that all about?
Yeah, and he gets on the plane, travels with the team, and has to stay at the team hotel to watch the game on radio. No one on the sidelines had like a phone call going with Jim in room 232.
You don't think there was any texting going on? I mean, something like that. But they run the ball 30 straight times before taking 2 knees, so it amounted to 32 consecutive runs. And James Franklin fires his offensive coordinator. It's kind of like firing the hitting coach, I think, at this stage, because everybody's calling for the head of James Franklin. His record in big games is atrocious.
Well, I call Penn State, and it endears my heart. They're champions of the Big 8, but they're playing in the Big 10.
Yeah.
So it's been rough sledding against Michigan and Ohio State over over James Franklin's tenure, but that was another game where you look at Penn State and put their defense on any offense in the country, and you go, this is the number 1, number 2 team in the country. You could substitute that defense with Georgia's defense, or another top tier defense where you look at Florida State that's a good defense and can be dominant at times, but that Penn State defense is really good, and especially they're not going to throw the football. They're going to run it down your throat. So you got to pack the box, and it's taxing on those big guys every play. But they win most of the battles and keep the team in the game. Much like the Miami FSU game, where it was like, if you get a turnover or you get something crazy that happens, it turns the game. A defensive score, a scoop and score on a forced fumble, you're gonna win, or you have a chance to win. Especially at home, you get the crowd into it again, because the offense. Much like Miami, when it takes the field, you go, oh, as long as we can alter the field position and feel like you got a long field to play with defensively, you're going to be okay. You can lengthen the game. And I think both of those teams tried to do that, but inevitably the better teams won.
Did Michigan show you enough in that game? And we don't know what'll transpire. I'm assuming that you can get some kind of temporary injunction against the suspension because I mean, under what authority is a suspension being given? Is there, there hasn't been even the slightest, bit of ability to counter on the part of Michigan. I mean, I know they've thrown some assertions out there. Well, everybody does this. It's a bunch of bullshit, but it does seem like, without having a hearing of some sort or, some kind of evidentiary, presentation that how do you just suspend this guy for 3 games and come up with a definitive punishment? And then the NCAA itself said, well, this isn't really about Harbaugh so much. It's about the program.
Right.
So
how do you come up with 3 games? I mean, just the rest of the regular season, evidently, but I mean, it's just 3 games, and then you're going to have, a team potentially in Michigan make the college football playoff and go to one of the major bowls to play for a chance at the national championship. And all of a sudden your head coach is going to come back in. I'm assuming that if he's suspended just for the games, I don't know what happens now Monday, in Ann Arbor. Is he suspended from the team completely?
no, the ruling was whatever that they issued. At least my understanding of it was that he was allowed to work with the team in practice all during the week. He just wasn't allowed to be on the sideline for game day.
So that makes absolutely,
I mean,
zero
talk about
sense.
sending the clowns. What is the point of that?
Look, and I don't think they should. I think in season to do this is the stupidest thing. Like, you wait till off season and you figure it out.
Right.
But how are they not penalized as a team then? Like, James Madison can't go to a bowl because of some Fakakta rule.
Yeah.
But Michigan can have a coach suspended twice in the same season. We're still in the same year. He was already suspended, but they're not punished. They're allowed to go win a championship, a la Reggie Bush winning a Heisman, that you take away. Like, it's what it's setting up. Oh, 2 years. Well, we're taking away their title. Like, who gives a shit after the fact? Like, what is going on with this? Like, this whole
I don't
thing-
know. I don't have a good answer for this one. It doesn't make any sense that, okay, so on game day, Jim Harbaugh is going to decide go for it on 4th down or not, call timeout or not,
for sure.
Kneel down on the football or not. So he's going to have about 5 major decisions which he could easily communicate to the bench at that particular time because his coordinators are running the game. So and now he's got full access to the team all week. So he sets up what he does like and doesn't like about the game plan versus specific coverage and teams and schemes and all that stuff. So basically you're eliminating Harbaugh, his presence on the sidelines, one, but his decision-making in 4 or 5 opportunities on game day.
Well, it strikes me too, John, that since he was so great at decoding signals, you would think that he would also be good at devising a system where he could call somebody, somewhere in the stadium.
What's that flashing blue light coming from?
And
the parking
easily
lot?
send in whatever his decision was, or communicate it somehow to his assistant coaches. It seemed absurd, and it also seemed bizarre. I mean, you rarely see this where, and this wasn't the NCAA. This was the Big Ten that issued this suspension.
I know,
and they did it, very quickly and without really, outlining what it was that they specifically had in terms of evidence. I guess they had, this assistant that was working there, and there was some evidence that he had paid for tickets for people that then spoke of the fact that they were getting paid to go ahead and help decode the signals of the other team. But it seemed bizarre. I mean, what happened to taking scholarships away? Where that was always the big fear was, oh, geez, well, we got Butch Davis. Just ask him about that. How many times the program was reprimanded for various indiscretions and ended up losing like 15 scholarships, and teams would make a big deal about that, as if it was very inhibiting. And I guess in the long run, it proved out to be where programs were hit with scholarship limitations and did, like a couple of years later, all of a sudden suffer the consequences of that.
Right.
So it was sort of imposing.
We're paying players millions of dollars now to play a college sport that is purely about getting a scholarship and amateur status. And now we're going to suspend a coach, just the coach, not the program, for supposedly stealing signals. So
yes, which it wasn't really clear that he was the man, the main impetus behind that. And that was a weird thing. When I read the ruling or whatever, or saw whatever the synopsis of it, it said that the accusation and the assertions were not directly,
At
at Jim
him.
Harbaugh, but
Yeah.
it was at the program. So it really made no sense. But I mean, are they good enough to beat Ohio State based on what you saw, John
They
Congemi?
could be. They seem to be. I don't know if they can score enough points, but that defense is so good they may stalemate Ohio State a little bit. And it always it at the end of the year, guys, it always depends on a raw day or not, too, because the kicking game always plays a part. Michigan, Ohio State. How many times have you seen a missed extra point or a chip shot field goal go off an upright, or weather factor in and somebody slips on the outside and all of a sudden Marvin Harrison's running free down the sidelines for an easy score. So I can't remember. I didn't look it up. Is it Michigan at Ohio State this year?
I'm not sure where the game is. I was just thinking that, like, gee, I hope John knows where the game is because I
Yeah,
don't.
I didn't look.
Yeah.
I didn't look, but that's always a big factor too, going into the game, depending on where you're at and who's got the ball last with these offenses. Michigan seems like it's going to take them a while at Michigan.
That saves their ass.
It's going to take a while for Michigan to score. So you would think for Michigan to win, it's ball control. It's keeping Ohio State's offense on the sidelines because they have probably, more weapons than most teams in college football, with a quarterback that's gotten better and a good defense. But they're a fast strike team, or potentially a fast strike team, where Michigan seems to plod their way along, and they're just happy doing it and keeping that potent offense on the sidelines. That would be how Michigan would want to win the game, in a 21-17 type of game, where they control the ball, they control how many opportunities Ohio State has to kick the can in the end zone. And the other way, Ohio State wants to make it a track meet. They want to be on the field. They want 3 plays, 57 seconds off the clock, 7-0 Ohio State, get the ball back, and let's do it again.
I only had a situation that would sort of be close to this once in my lifetime, and I've told Lubie this since the day I met him, that my dream would be to sign a big guaranteed contract and get fired the first day on like a 5-year lucrative deal with some radio station or television outlet. I did have to sit out a 6-month non-compete. I don't know. It was questionable whether it was enforceable, but and that was great. I was getting paid. I just received a huge boost in salary when I went to WQAM from WIOD, and the guy said, "Listen, I don't want to bother challenging this, so why don't you just hang around the station for 6 months and we'll put you on the air when this thing is over." And I thought, wow, this is great, man. I mean, it couldn't be a better time, because there were only so many times you were going to show up at the station and go, "Hey, yeah, good show, guys," if you're not on it. But this Jimbo Fisher thing, I mean, I understand. I mean, it's happened before and it'll happen again. But I mean, wouldn't you think universities, how much money is really at stake here when you can afford to dump a guy and give him $75 million to go away?
I don't know. It almost seems like it shouldn't happen that way, because you get the board in a meeting room, and they're actually, everybody's nodding their head, yes, we should cut our losses at 75 million, and we should let him walk away.
Right.
And everybody's going, yeah, I agree with that guy. It was like semi-pro. I agree with both of those guys. I don't understand how you can do that. And it's not like all of a sudden 5 years ago they thought Jimbo Fisher was the smartest guy walking the planet coaching college football, and now he's the dumbest.
And he had all those recruiting classes too. I mean, that was the other thing.
Well, they've done what you're supposed to do to win.
I know. So what does the next guy get? I mean, what does the next guy get in his contract?
Imagine saying, as you're, negotiating this, you're the attorney for whatever coach is coming in there and going, "Wait a minute, you're paying the guy $75 million not to
leave." To leave.
I want at least that to start.
Start, yeah. And it's and it won't be, like you said, it's not the first time, and it won't be the last.
No.
But I don't know how many more schools would want to hire a big time coach, paying big time money on the length of the contracts that they give these guys, and all of a sudden feel like you can't ride it out. Backtrack a couple, I guess a month and a week. How do you think Miami Board of Regents felt when they were going, all we had to do is kneel on the ball, we're going to lead the ACC, we might be able to play for the ACC title, the way the dominoes have fallen, and we're paying this guy X and millions of dollars, and he can't 115, 114, 113. Where's the clock?
Yeah.
All we have to do is kneel on the ball. But to get out of that contract, you're probably talking, probably half of what Jimbo
That's
had.
like 50, 40, 50.
Yeah, but it's crazy what these guys are getting paid. And you've got a guy that steps in for Michigan that supposedly, is the head coach of the day, and now he's going to get a job, whether it's in college football or whether it goes with Jim Harbaugh when he gets hired by the Bears or wherever he's going to go.
You're thinking that's the easiest solution for Harbaugh, right? I mean,
yeah.
Just enough of this shit and go take a deal in the pros somewhere and join his brother John Harbaugh and see what can happen. All right, we're going to come back and talk. So where are we at? I mean, Georgia looked really good. You would have to still say
Alabama looks really
with this Milroe. Wow, that's a great story, John.
So happy they hung with that kid. He's the best one of the bunch. They just needed to get him playing, get him going, trim the mistakes, because the mistakes weren't incompletes. They were interceptions early in the year. And I think that's a team that's hitting their stride. And Georgia still looks good, but I don't know if somebody gets them on the right day that can play with them on the line of scrimmage, they're gonna upset Georgia.
Saban is Cristobal in reverse. I don't know. Maybe Tyler Van Dyke is not that great of a player. It's possible. It seemed like he had massive potential, as Gene Deckeroff alluded to. I hear his voice in my head, the great Gene Deckeroff, saying, "You got a quarterback. You got a quarterback. That's all you need in this game." And I thought, all right. I didn't even know what he was talking about at the time. I mean, I'd seen Van Dyke. I'm like, really? He believes that highly in this kid. That's fantastic. But Saban, with what he did with Milroe, I mean, he had him on the bench, and then he brings him back, and it was under shaky circumstances, you thought. And then, sure enough, he's developed into a top-flight player all of a sudden. Looks very much like you would have seen from Tagovailoa or Jalen Hurts when he was at Alabama.
He looks great. Great. That's a team that's dangerous right now.
Very dangerous coming on. It's a shame to say it. And now they are definitely meeting Georgia in the SEC championship game. Is that
out? Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I think they're locked in, but I mean, for them to be in a playoff kind of
they may represent a real threat there, where you would have thought that this was just a walkover for Georgia a couple of maybe 3-4 weeks back. All right, so come back. We'll talk about the pros. The Ravens. Wow, did you catch any of that action? How the hell did they lose to the Browns? They were up like 37-6 or something like that. It was insane, the lead that they had, and it would have appeared to be insurmountable. Everybody, and I think, just based on what we'd seen in recent weeks, we were even on board with this. You were thinking, wow, the best team in the league right now is the Ravens.
Yes.
We had thrown in the towel on the 49ers. They shellacked Jacksonville on the road. The Giants sucked. The Jets, another dreadful performance offensively. So a lot to talk about in the pros. John Congemi's Pigskin Playbook. It'd be great if we were talking about it over a cocktail. I mean, is there anything better than being down at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill and grabbing a cocktail? And Mike Mayo is already on the chat line saying, "Hey, when are we going down there? I have to try it." The Italian Fisherman Pizza. But I think he would be overwhelmed at the number of choices you have there. I don't even know if that would be his go-to item if he.
You're right.
Menu.
We may have to force Mike Mayo the pizza, the seafood pizza, right? Because
imagine having to shove one down his throat after he's already eaten 3 other meals.
Yeah, there's so much to choose from. And the cool thing about Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill for me is the relaxation factor. When I get there, I know I can just chill. I can just go to the tiki bar and hang out, or I can go to the sports bar and watch any number of college football, pro football, NHL, NBA. You've got it all down there with the massive TVs all over the place and the first class service and the first class food. But my spot's outside, just hanging out and either at the tiki bar or just hanging out at one of the patio chairs, just looking at the bayside views and enjoying the food and drink. Nothing better in the Upper Keys.
No, it's going to be great. I'm wondering, were these shots out? Did you watch the game last night by any chance? The Raiders-Jets game?
Yes.
They had what appeared to be. Do they actually have slot machines in the stadium there? I can't imagine. Or table games?
I don't know. It looked like it. I don't know if they do or not. I've never been in the stadium.
No, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Going to head out there for the Super Bowl, and I would imagine that I would have to be on the me leaving the Strip to take a tour of a stadium. It seems
Yeah.
very far fetched, but this might be worth seeing. I don't think they actually have gaming inside the stadium. They might have a Keno girl coming down the aisle. I mean, how great would that be? But it showed a shot of a buffet there, and I thought, wow, if that's the stadium food, that is
Gotta
an
get there.
ideal place to take in a game. I guess that was off one of the casinos on the Strip. All right, we're going to come back. We'll talk about the pros. John Congemi's Pigskin Playbook on a Monday morning. Appeal yourself off the map Monday. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz with you here on South Florida Live, and back with more in a moment. Now that. And I believe, John, we're going to have some success with the Tony Bruno show today.
Nice.
We did a little experiment on Friday after getting blown out again, and supposedly it works now. So we'll see. It's that's at 10 o'clock. It's 8:41.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Congemi. Now, what do you think on this? And I'm not sure where I stand on this. Will more people be rooting for Tim Tebow to make some dramatic game-winning catch in the final seconds in the end zone? Or will they be looking forward to seeing him get plastered in a special teams play and it just rolled under the turf like he was roadkill somewhere in Alabama as he makes his debut for the Jacksonville Jaguars? You think people will be rooting for him or rooting against him?
It depends if you're a Hurricane or Seminole fan, Defo. I think it probably starts there.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Peeling yourself off the Mount Monday here on the Defo Show. A little glitch there, but we're right back with it with John Congemi, the handsome one. A lot of compliments from female friends of mine asking me who's the guy on the Monday show, and they weren't asking about Lubie and me. I mean, it was strictly John Congemi. So you got the movie star good looks going, and they were on display in spite of the fact that the Dolphins had a bye this week.
Yeah, we had to work.
I love the fact. Yeah, anatomy of a bye week. So what did you guys come up with? I mean, what was the general conclusion? It seems like people are of the belief that, okay, 6-3, the 3 games against teams that were considered to be real tests, all resulting in losses, all resulting in wild compromising of the Dolphins' normally explosive offense. They are averaging, I think, less than 20 points in those games.
They are.
And yet everybody is very optimistic. They have an easy schedule until they get to the very end, where the last 4 games also are of that telling variety. But you've been expressing this throughout the last couple of weeks, and certainly through the bye week, that this is a time where this is a team that's going to get back some of its key players and maybe show some improvement from within. And so they're not in bad shape at all. And with a realistic possibility of being somewhere along the lines of 10-3, but by the time they get to the tough sledding in their schedule.
Everything sets up perfectly for the Miami Dolphins moving forward. They're 6-3, and you're right, Defo. They've only averaged 17 points in their 3 losses. Now, granted, it's Philadelphia, KC, and Buffalo, but you're giving up an average of 33 points to those teams with winning records. So something's got to kind of get closer to the middle, and I think it will as we get closer to the end of the season. Now, the Dolphins have the Raiders coming in. They've got the Jets twice. I think they go on the road to Washington, and they have a Monday night game against the Titans. All of those games are so winnable, it's not funny. Now, if the Dolphins can stay out of their own way, they should gather another 5 wins easily on this season. I got them at 11 or 12 going into the year. 10 was probably the bottom number. 12 or 13 was the high number. I don't see them sweeping the Cowboys, the Ravens, and the Bills. But the good thing is they have 2 of those 3 games at home at Hard Rock Stadium, where they score a lot of points, where they play a little bit more consistently, and they don't give up as many points to good teams. So we'll see what happens down the stretch. I've got them, I don't see how they can't win the AFC East. And depending on what Buffalo does, it's going to come down to that last game if everything plays out. But I don't know if Buffalo can ride out the string the way they're playing. I don't think they're good enough or consistent enough to be able to put themselves in position where that last game really matters for the AFC East crown. I think the Dolphins are going to win it. I think they're going to have a home playoff game if they can just beat the teams they're supposed to beat. And they should be favored of the last 8 games. I would think they're going to be favored in 6, maybe 7 of them.
Well, and what's interesting to me is, and I get it, the Dolphins have struggled against the good teams, but again, they've actually had built-in excuses. They've been pretty much injured in every single matchup, and they've been on the road or away from home in every single matchup. And the fun part to me, it's what we've talked about. The teams that they keep putting ahead of the Dolphins keep losing to worse teams.
Yeah.
Right when it wasn't just the Ravens. We crowned the Ravens and
Cincinnati.
Ravens and the Bengals. They're coming on. And we couldn't, I couldn't say anything because it was true. They were.
Right.
The Ravens and Bengals were coming on. And then they both lost the same week. And Ravens had a big lead. There was no reason the way they play football, you don't lose a lead, defense and run. You don't give up a lead versus Deshaun Watson. Well, they gave up a lead, and it was an atrocity. The Bengals looked again. So, and I'm not even hating on those teams. What I'm saying is I guess we're not used to it being wide open, but it's wide open.
Yeah.
The Niners are good if they have Deebo Samuel. To me, if they have Deebo Samuel, they're the best team in football. But again, he gets hurt a lot. There's every single team. The Eagles are not dominant like they were last year. The Dolphins have their issues against the Goliaths. Every single team has an issue. But for a team like the Dolphins, who had built-in excuses, to me, it plays out perfect. They have enough whatever teams to get it right, get their guys healthy, get used to playing together, to where I think they can challenge a Ravens. They can challenge the Bills. They can challenge a Cowboy. The schedule sets up perfectly for them. And the way everyone else is playing also sets up perfectly for them.
And to both of your points in terms of health-wise, this is probably going to be the healthiest team in the National Football League on both sides coming back after the bye week. Okay, so you're 6-3 at the bye week. You've played pretty well, and you feel like you've left something out there against good teams. Well, now's your chance. Now's your chance to get healthy. This is going to be the second game in a row where you have Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard both playing at the cornerback position. You're going to get Javon Holland back at the safety spot. You're going to split time with Brandon Jones and Deshaun Elliott at the other safety spot. As backups and reserves in that secondary, you're going to have Eli Apple. You're going to have Kader Kohu. You're going to have Nick Needham. I mean, those guys can plug and play pretty much anywhere you want them to play at different positions. And the front 7 seems to be raring to go. You got Bradley Chubb that's coming on strong. You've got Wilkins that's creating havoc, and he's going to have a personal best in terms of sacks if he gets another half a sack. So you've got Sealer, you've got Van Ginkel, who's underrated. You've got a ton of guys. Ogba,
Phillips seems to be
Phillips is doing a great job. And now you turn it over to the offensive side. If they can get Rob Hunt back at the right guard spot, they're going to be pretty much set going in. And you cross your fingers about Armstead because he's the domino factor. He's only going to play 12 games a year, and you just don't know what 12 you're going to get. Yeah. So he's already missed 4. If he can stay relatively healthy down the stretch, it's going to be a huge boost because now that's one less position you don't have to worry about if you have to plug and play somebody else in. It looks like Williams is solidified back healthy at the center spot, which is terrific. And, if Rob Hunt comes back, you're going to get a Chan back to help out Mostert in the backfield. You're pretty much set, and River Craycraft can come back in because he's, believe it or not, he adds so much a solid presence to the offense because he can play different positions when guys need to take a blow or guys get nicked where other guys can't, because he knows the offense. So there's little things in this offense that, you get the tight end Durham Smythe that was banged up. He hasn't really been playing up to his standard. Well, he got a week off. He should be raring to go. So I think this team is poised to make a run, but it won't matter unless they can find a way to beat Dallas at home, and or Baltimore on the road, and then finally, put the dirt on the Bills and beat them at home to win the crown. That would be terrific.
Tell this mysterious second half collapse against the Browns. Baltimore was looking every bit like the team that was so much on the ascent that it was almost fair to anoint them as being the best. San Francisco had lost to 3 straight, and as Louis pointed out, they get Devo Samuel back. You're looking at Kittle, Samuel, and McCaffrey.
Dangerous.
And all of a sudden, Brock Purdy. Did you ever throw a pass? I don't know if you caught that first touchdown pass that Brock Purdy threw. I mean, throws it into double coverage. Seems impossible. I mean, while going to his left as a right-hander and off balance, and he fires one into the end zone, and you're thinking, holy Jameis Winston, what are we looking at here?
Yeah.
And the guy makes the catch. I mean, it turns into a touchdown pass. If you just looked at that in a box score, it doesn't tell you anything about, you're saying, oh, wow, look at this, Brock Purdy, 33 of 41, 2 touchdowns. That was an abysmal choice that turned out. I mean, sort of similar to Emory Williams at UM when he completed the 85-yard pass. The problem I have right now, I mean, we saw them lose, although they had chances, and as they were saying, a game of inches, a couple of inches, decide a lot of different NFL games, but it certainly did the Dallas-Philadelphia game, where, they had the guy with the knee just before the end zone, and then Dak Prescott steps out of bounds just before he dives in there. But nonetheless, and they were in there with a chance to win a game at the end. I don't know that it's a fair litmus test to judge what they did against the Giants, but in general, over the last several weeks, I mean, Dallas has acquitted itself very well and probably deserves that distinction, John. I don't know how you feel about it. It's great, too, because when Taylor Swift started dating Kelsey, we didn't have to watch as many shots in the booth of Jerry Jones, the insufferable one. But that notwithstanding, I mean, what you're seeing on the field with the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, it was pretty impressive yesterday against, a very, very inept Giants team.
I guess when you flip the coin in the NFC about who the best team is, who's the most dominant, boy, it switches every week. In the AFC, I think Kansas City pretty much is the standard bearer right now. And to get to the Super Bowl, you're going to have to somehow beat Kansas City in Kansas City the way it looks.
Yep.
In the NFC, I don't know. Some weeks I'm a huge 49ers fan, and then other weeks I'm a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan, and sometimes I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. It's just that those teams seem to take a 2-week or a 3-week turn on who the better team is, and I can't really say definitively, like, yeah, you know what, the Cowboys are the best team, because next week they could go out and lay an egg, and you're going, what happened to those guys? Much like, the Cincinnati Bengals did this week. So in the AFC, I still think it runs through KC, and you're going to have to beat KC. Now the Dolphins may have that opportunity if they continue to play well, but in the NFC, man, it's kind of like hit or miss. It's Dallas looked good, but how much stock do you put into that game against the Giants? I don't know. I just think San Francisco has, especially with the addition on defense.
Like, what the hell was that?
Gosh, that's like a lottery pick, right?
Yeah.
So I like San Francisco and Philadelphia's chances more than the Cowboys. I'm not discounting the Cowboys, but if I had a pecking order, it's 1A, 1B. Take your pick with San Fran and Philly, and then Dallas is just a notch below.
Wild seesaw game involving another team that probably should be mentioned among the NFC contenders, and that is Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, who beat the Chargers with a field goal late in the game. That game had a little monetary interest in it. Ended up being a push, so it was irrelevant in the long run. But nonetheless, the Lions, are they somebody that has to be taken into consideration as a title contender? That seems very far-fetched after watching all those dreadful Thanksgiving Day games over the years.
Boy, you know what? Dan Campbell was either going to be the GOAT or the king, because how do you 4th and 2 in field goal range? I don't know how many times you go for that and win and get it and then exhaust the clock and kick the field goal to win the game. I don't know. I just think that they're in the mix. They play tough football. They can score. They can beat you up on defense. But sometimes you get to the point where you're ultra aggressive, and in some game it's going to come back to get you. By playing analytics and saying we're going to win the game now instead of giving the chance to the other team to go down and score and beat you, or at least tie it. So I think they're just on the fringe. I think Detroit's a hell of a football team. They're well coached. I just think sometimes when you take you're going to get bit by that poison of going after analytics at some point in the season.
Taking the chances. And you would think that the swashbuckling style of Campbell would lead him to be that sort of gambler that everybody thought Jimmy Johnson was back in the day when he would do outrageous things, and oftentimes, more often than not, they would end up working in his favor. John, wow, it flew by here. I hope it was as much fun as the bye-week pregame show.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot more fun than that, trust me.
Good, yeah, because I was always struggling with that when we used to do some kind of pregame show, 4 hours of Dolphin football, and they weren't playing that day. It made for, really having to stretch a minimal and marginal amount of material.
How about this one, Defo? I got one for you.
Yeah.
So for the Dolphins at Jets, I think the day after Thanksgiving, they play at 3:00 on a Friday.
Yes.
I believe it is.
Okay.
So CBS Channel 4, we have our Dolphins Weekly Live at 11:30 on Friday.
Okay.
We're going to do an hour pregame show, I think an hour before the game, and then come on with the fifth quarter after. So I'll be packing breakfast, lunch, and dinner down in Doral, it seems like, for that one.
You'll be eating a lot of turkey sandwiches on the set there.
Yes.
Not even at the stadium.
In between. Hey, when's the next show? John, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks,
we'll get
guys.
down there, get on Tommy Fox, and we'll see if we can't make these arrangements.
Sure.
Everybody is hammering, us and saying, hey, when are you getting down to
He's okay.
Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill? We can't wait to get down there. I could use a little, R&R down there at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, and you could hardly consider this work to begin with, but it's especially pleasant when we're there and feeding ourselves on that great food. So thanks so much for being with us. So we'll talk to you again next week, my friend.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks a lot.
And the ladies love you. They love you.
Of course. Great
The
looking.
hottest women I know are inquiring about Congemi. I say he's married. He's a happily married man. He's a family man. He's dedicated. He's not that type of guy. So forget about it, ladies. Same thing happens with Mayo. Always inquiries about Mike Mayo's status, relationship status.
But I feel like it's for many different reasons.
Do they think he has money?
They're curious as how the hell he got there.
Yeah. That's 1:00 today. We're going to experiment with another Tony Bruno Sports Network show. I say experiment. I think it's going to work out way better today. There's only one component that we have not satisfied among the weird set of criteria that we have to operate under to do this show, which has nothing to do with philosophical elements, just strictly technical. Although Lubie is tied in directly. I think you are plugged right into FP&L, are you not?
I hope they
have like a direct wire to whatever they're distributing in terms of ability to transmit a show.
They've been questioning my stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. It's worked for video, which is more stuff than audio. And then the guy came on Friday to test my thing, and he's like, holy shit, this guy sings fast. I'm like, yeah, I thought so. Like,
yeah, same here. I mean,
and yes, and they liked yours too. I'm like, okay. So then
could be another problem.
Mayo's putting odds.
With no glitch? Come on, Mayo. You're going to have to come up with a bigger number there. He's got plus 460, no glitch, not one. We're just hoping that out of the intro, we're able to say hello at this point. We didn't get that far on the Friday show. And then they finally said, all right, that's it. And they called in a technical guy. And it's always weird when somebody else is operating the mouse and, the thing is moving in your computer and you're not touching anything. And you're like, wait a minute, man. Where are we? Russia? Unbelievable. But we'll see if it works. I hope it does. I mean, whatever we did on Friday, it sounded pretty good. So I'm optimistic about that. So we'll see you at 10 o'clock, Tony Bruno Sports Network.
Yes.
Got a little No Filter thing coming up here in a few minutes.
Yes.
Although that is up there all day on nofilter.net and Caffeine TV.
Yes.
And it's been having a modicum of success in spite of our technical difficulties in that venue as well.
Finally.
But you got to punch into this and punch into that. But I don't know, Lubie. These guys that are more sophisticated are making it much more complicated than it seems to be. You were able to start and launch successfully your own channel. And for the most part, I mean, out of the 2 years we've been doing this, I would say I don't think we've ever had to bag like a whole show, have we? Maybe once.
Not it. I mean, the internet goes out because that's this day and age, but that happened with the radio, that happened with television, that happened with everyone.
Sure.
It's every day. I don't know we've ever had that where like every day we just like
a different set of circumstances completely. That was the last one was absolutely as absurd as any. Never mind, hey, punch out that mix minus. That was always my thing. The echo effect was always strange, and usually when that guy Rudy was working the board, he would just put the show on the air and then leave you there.
Even
And I don't know what he did. He went in his car and like listened to rap music or something. I don't know what he was doing.
I think he would sleep on it. He had like kids.
That was always great. All right, I'm optimistic today, Louie. I want to stay optimistic. My horoscope is very favorable about the coming month here and the business that's at hand. All right, we'll see you later on as we leave you on that.
The time.
It's 9:02.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.